welcome to the Sun Sentinel Editorial Board interview about Amendment 2 on medical marijuana. Last time, 2 years ago, we had a similar conversation with the people who were for and against the last effort to approve medical marijuana for use in Florida. And as you probably know, that amendment went down in defeat with about 58% of people voting for it, but with a 60% threshold needed, it came just short. This time the polls are showing that there's significant support for the amendment. We've heard that the amendment has been redone. We're going to talk more about that today. And we're going to, for about 45 minutes here, have a conversation about the pros and cons of whether you should vote for medical marijuana in Florida. With that, we're going to do self-introductions, and then we're going to go to questions. And if you have any questions on Facebook, please type them in, and we'll take a look and ask the questions that you'd like to have answered as well. So, Clarence, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good evening or good afternoon, whatever it may be there. My name is Clarence McKee. I'm a consultant to Drug Free Florida's Vote No on 2 campaign.
And I am Jessica Spencer. I am the Policy Director for Vote No on 2.
I'm Andrew Abramson with the editorial board.
Good evening. My name is Giselle Delgadillo. I am here with Ben, and I'm also here representing Canna Moms, which is mothers advocating for medical marijuana.
I'm Ben Polera. I'm the campaign manager for United for Care, advocating for Amendment 2.
Okay, Ben, let's start with you, and we're going to have a free-form conversation, so people are please jump in if there's something you want to say. We are going to try to keep our answers a little short just to keep the conversation moving. But Ben, we saw that your side was here 2 years ago. Voters did not put it over the threshold. What's different this time, and why should people vote for your amendment?
Sure. Well, first of all, only in Florida is 58% considered a loss. But it is what it is, and we were back before the voters this November with an updated, revised, and I think better version of this constitutional amendment to provide medical marijuana to sick and suffering Floridians. So a couple things that we've done differently. First and foremost, we've considerably tightened up the definition of who qualifies for medical marijuana under this law. In the definition of debilitating medical condition, we've changed it to read, we have a list of conditions, and then, or other debilitating medical conditions of the same kind or class as or comparable to those enumerated, and for which a physician believes the medical use of marijuana would likely outweigh the potential health risk to a patient. And so it refers to a list that includes cancer, epilepsy, glaucoma, HIV, AIDS, PTSD, ALS, Crohn's disease, Parkinson's disease, MS. Those are all clearly debilitating diseases, so this is not marijuana for a hangnail. Additionally, we've clarified that patients under the age of 18 need to receive written parental consent not only in the physician's office, but it needs to be verified by the State Department of Health before they become a legal medical marijuana patient. And we've given the state of Florida additional responsibilities and duties as it relates to regulating caregivers. So previously, a caregiver could serve up to 5 medical marijuana patients. Now it is up to the department to determine how many patients they can or cannot serve, and also the department is specifically authorized to conduct background checks on those caregivers.
Okay, and let's stop there. Jessica, let's go to you. So they have significantly addressed some of the concerns that were 2 years ago. What do you think about the changes in this one, and what are your concerns now?
I certainly wouldn't use the word significantly, but I appreciate Ben's position on that. This is really, again, de facto legalization of marijuana. The or other conditions, from 2014, they put in, this extra language. However, it still says the same thing. It's just fancier, bigger words that are saying or other conditions.
How does it say that?
Because when you actually read the language that Ben nicely read out for you, or other debilitating medical conditions of the same kind or class as or comparable to those enumerated. Well, that's the same thing. It's or other conditions. It's any of the symptomology that will fall under the conditions that are listed, like before, will actually qualify for marijuana. So nothing has changed as far as that goes.
But do you see, when you compare HIV or cancer or multiple sclerosis, last time around it was like, well, we could be prescribed for a hangnail. Do you see in that language that it could still be prescribed for a hangnail?
Well, and it's recommended. It's not a prescription. So that is this misconception that I'm so glad that we are able to actually live stream, and the viewers will be able to go back and see this too. It didn't write hangnail in there last time either, but we are still looking at language that says or other conditions. So
Or other
a
debilitating.
There's
hangnail.
other similar conditions, correct, of ones that are.
But remember, symptomology of those conditions would then qualify. So if a symptom, let's say maybe of a hangnail, which is that's a little stretching it.
What's a good example of something realistic?
Great example, PTSD. That is a mental health condition. There are different symptoms that fall under PTSD, anxiety, depression, trouble sleeping, etc. That, based on the way it's written, would qualify on their own as anxiety, depression, trouble sleeping, as a condition that you could get a recommendation for, which is what we were concerned with in 2014. Again, the other conditions would qualify.
Other debilitating conditions.
Debilitating, that is up to who?
A physician.
Well, Ben,
But-
what about that example of PTSD? Someone has anxiety. Her example right there.
Listen, first of all, it's a decision that should be made in the context of the doctor-patient relationship, and it's a decision that should be made individually, right? There are people who have mild anxiety that get through their days. There are people who have such severe anxiety that they cannot leave their house for days on end, right? That is patently a debilitating medical condition, right? There are people with the other, point not the hangnail was marijuana for a headache, right? There are people that have headaches. I have headaches. I take Advil. But there are people who have crippling migraines that leave them, again, bedridden, house-ridden for days on end. My headache that I treat with Advil is not a debilitating medical condition. The one that leaves somebody, unable to work or function for a day or days on end is a debilitating medical condition. The bottom line is that it's a decision that should be made at the doctor-patient level. Not by us, not by politicians.
Have some scientific evidence to show that marijuana actually makes a difference in the course of treatment for somebody with PTSD or these other conditions? Is there any evidence that marijuana, medical grade marijuana, can alleviate or improve or treat or cure some of the conditions that you're talking about?
There's certainly a growing body of evidence to suggest that, yeah. And, the other thing is doctors on a daily basis recommend courses of treatment that are not FDA-approved pharmaceuticals. They recommend exercise, they recommend dietary supplements, dietary changes, meditation, things like that. So, no, marijuana is not prescribed. It is not an FDA-regulated drug in the way that a lot of other things are, but there's a wide berth of options for physicians to recommend non-pharmaceutical treatments to their patients and do so in a safe way, and marijuana should be one of them, like it is in 25 other states.
At the same time, Jessica, do you believe it's better for sick patients to take highly addictive pharmaceutical prescriptions if these people have tried marijuana and feel that it helps them and they don't need to take addictive medication?
There's two issues there. One, that they believe is working for them, and that they have these terrible conditions. If you are experiencing cancer, HIV, AIDS, those sorts of things, I don't think anyone would argue that. No one's going to take issue. The problem is when it opens the door for those other things. And the thing when we describe a headache versus a migraine and, oh, I take Advil and, oh, the other person's off on the floor. Well, those are subjective. So we're right back to the pain and the overprescribing of those prescription drugs and the subjective trying to figure out, well,
Subjective to the professional opinion of the treating physician.
I'm going to continue to speak instead of being consistently interrupted. And so with that, and trying to figure out what science says and what science tells us, and what we know about these prescription drugs, the other issue is that the prescription drugs that we have predictable known side effects. We know when we go into a pharmacy that if we take our Advil, if we take our whatever, we know what side effects to look for. We know how much to take. We know what to take it with. We know what to not take it with. We don't have any such parameters or regulations on this amendment for the products that will be sold. There is no regulating how much THC can be in them, how much CBD can be in them. It's not in there.